Yeah.
To lies.
Almost.
You sit on a throne of lies.
That was the first words. Wonderful.
Great first word.
Good evening, everybody. Anybody who's listening out there, welcome to the March edition of the Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour. This week, along with my distinguished colleagues Lee, Carl and Chris, we have Sancho Harker, Matt Beard and Matt Collins-Jones, who are all here to give you some fantastic content. So if you want to say hi, guys.
Hi guys.
Hi guys.
It's just weird the fact that you
Hi,
used the
guys.
word distinguished in that sentence with all of us. Like that's never happened to me.
Well, it's going to be an evening of firsts. So for me, the first, I hope you've all got a drink, everybody who's joining us. I have a Dalston alcohol-free rhubarb G&T because I don't drink.
I'm drinking a very quality Foster's. I mean, like I said, this is a can of possibilities. This could end absolutely anyway. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens here.
So do feel free to tweet pictures of yourself with your drink of choice with the hashtag PPVHH for Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour. And have we got a slide, Carl, that shows everybody what's coming up? Oh, look who's joined us, Jon Levesque. Say hi, Jon.
Hello. How's it going?
Hey, John.
Good, man. What's happening?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm about to break out a beer. It's only noon here, but I don't know. It's beer 30, I feel like.
Dude, I respect that very much.
It's very much beer o'clock. That way you'll fit in with the rest of everyone else. Like,
yeah.
Basically, what we're going to see how much drinking we can fit in the next 59 minutes to see how slurred we can be by the end of it.
I feel like
I'm glad
that
I'm
is
not
just
talking last.
I feel like I
very
can win that.
special challenge for Chris.
I think the quicker challenge, like hands up, who hasn't seen Chris drunk? Yeah, no one's waving a hand.
Yeah.
No one. Literally
Yeah.
no one. So yeah. Carlos, my good friend, do we have a slide to show what is coming up events wise? Oh no, or we can do a the quick snappy topics. So a quick rundown of what we're doing this evening. We've got the wonderful, inimitable Matt Collins-Jones with his top 5 hidden gems in Power Automate. Then closely followed by Matt Beard, who is keeping dialogues in UI, and finishing off with Sancho, who is doing build faster and build faster using create. Sorry, let me try that again. Build faster, create Power Apps templates. If you haven't seen this before, what Sancho's done there is tremendous. So I guarantee you're going to want to see that. And we've got a bit of space for Q&A at the end. We've already got some questions. I don't know if Carl's already reading those or not. Yeah, so if there's any questions, anything pops up, because it's a live event and it's difficult for you guys to interact, then it's easier for us to do all the Q&A in one session right at the end. So Anna says she can't hear anything. Can anybody else hear anything?
I hear you.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, Kayla says, yo, my peoples. And yeah, Anonymous said no hands raised. That was to the Chris, the drunk Chris.
Yeah, don't worry, we can sort that out. Give me 4 minutes.
I'm sorry, Chris. And also, I'm going to throw down a challenge to you now, Chris, in front of all of these witnesses, that you must have at least 4 beers before we go skating.
Yes. Oh, holy crap! Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, that's what I do before breakfast.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it was a bit of a crap challenge then, really.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
He's got a helmet. He'll be fine.
You'd be very surprised how wrong you are.
I believe Chris has more than one helmet. So moving on, Matt
At least
Collins.
I don't have the horn.
I do. I have a klaxon. I don't know. So without further ado, let's get cracking with Matt Collins-Jones and his top 5 hidden gems in Power Automate. It's good to have Jon Levesque here, so he can interject.
I can judge him.
Don't
You can
silence.
tell me everywhere I've got it wrong. Yeah.
No pressure.
Can we
No pressure. No.
can we point out the missing space in Power Automate, or is it too soon?
It's too soon. It's
Okay, fine.
too soon. And I had a client referring to flows as Power Automates the other day, which I think it was Jon Levesque himself who made that joke, and I was quite shocked that somebody actually said it. So, handing over to Matt, I'll shut up now. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you for the nice introduction. All right, let's share my screen if it wants to. Then we'll minimize this and this and this and this. Here we go. So, Power Automate 5 hidden gems. See, this does have a space, Matt, so I got my slides right. So what I'm going to talk about today is 5 things in Power Automate that I think are hidden gems, things that I think some people don't know about that are actually really useful. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So just a little about me before we get into the good stuff. So my name is Matt Collins-Jones. I'm a senior D365 CE / Power Platform consultant. I work for a company called TSG. I've been working with Dynamics CRM for about 9+ years. Started off as a end user, then system admin, then support and consultant, etc., etc. I've worked with everything online and on premise. I've passed 14 exams in the last 4.5 years in Dynamics and the Power Platform, and I'm a cat dad to my 2 cats who are trapped downstairs and away from this presentation. This is Miso on the left and Ted on the right. But enough about me. Let's jump into the Power Automate. So I'm going to go through each one of these. I've got a tab for each one, and it's just about some things that I think are either underused or unknown, or something that I think just has a lot of potential that a lot of people don't use. So the first thing, and this may sound like a very basic thing, is manual triggers. So there is a manual trigger flow, manual trigger, which is a trigger for flow, and that has a lot of great things. So I use it in most of my testing because it is a really easy way to trigger a flow. You don't need to create a record, you don't need to update a record, you don't need to do some other action. You can just hit a button and the flow triggers. But what a lot of people don't know is you can actually add multiple inputs into that manual trigger. So if I expand this step here, we have all these different types of inputs. So we have single lines of text, we have yes, no Boolean values, we have email address with like email formatting and validation, we have numbers, we can enter dates, and we can also attach files. So already we have a bunch of different inputs that we can put into this when we're triggering a flow. Manual triggers are also something that you can use on mobile. So if you have a manual trigger set up on your mobile and you want to say write a short message or something like that, you could potentially have one that says, I need to work from home today, boss, not feeling too great, or, you know, I need to take the cat to the vets at lunch or something like that. And you could put in that message there and have it send an email to your boss. And then you could also use that to maybe update your calendar and Outlook to put an appointment, say you'll be at the office for a couple of hours because you're doing something like a personal appointment or something. And there you go. It's a fantastic tool that a lot of people don't use. You also have the abilities to make things optional or required as you're doing this. So again, you can have a level of validation as you're going through. So if I test this out, I'll perform the trigger action, test. Then we can see we get a list of things that we need to input, or choose to input. So we can write a message in. Happy Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour. Is the answer yes or no? We could attach a file into here. We could put an email address in. and let's try to resolve that. We can put a number in, whatever number we want, and we can add a date. Click run the flow, click done. Ran successfully, and I have a compose action that just collates all this information. So you notice I didn't attach a file because it doesn't really display in here, but you could attach a file. So say like a receipt for something, for some expenses that you need to get signed off or something like that. This has loads of versatility and loads of potential, and I think it's a kind of an underused and an underutilized function because everyone just uses manual triggers, but no one ever goes in and adds the text and the numbers and everything else. And I think it's really, really underused. So that is my number one hidden gem. Move on to number two, scope. Now I've spoken about this a few times about how scope is a fantastic thing to use. So what scope is it's the ability to group a bunch of actions inside a very neat box, a very neat sort of container for it. So I can see here, this is just 2 steps, and one of the steps is a scope. As we expand scope, we can see a list of other actions. So we've got list records here. We've got a send a mobile action, get the current date and time. So if you're looking at a flow and you have to look at, right, what does this do? Okay, then there's all these different actions here. You have to click into each one manually, and then you get this really long flow that just goes off the bottom of your screen. Using scope, you can make everything a lot neater and pull things together so that you're not constantly flicking back and forth between all your different options. You can see it all in one group, and it makes your life a lot simpler, especially when you get into those bigger flows. So my advice is start with scopes early, group things together that you think could be grouped together or should be grouped together, and then you'll have a lot nicer time when those flows get a lot bigger. So scope is a really cool action, and everything will still trigger as if it would if it was out of the scope, but at least it gives you that ability to see all these things in one place. And that actually leads me nicely onto hidden gem number 3. Copy and paste. This was a big request from the community, and the Power Automate team delivered this last year. The ability to copy and paste something, an action, anything, so that you don't have to redo and refill in loads of different fields and loads of different things. So copy and paste is really simple. So we have a single action here for the weather forecast for today from Manchester, because that's where I live. We can click on 3 dots. Click copy and paste, copy to my clipboard. So it is still in preview, still a few things to work out, but I use this all the time and it's brilliant. And then we can click on add new step down at the bottom, and we could click on clipboard, and we can see that that action we have there is right here, and we paste it in, and then it has all that same information, which is brilliant. That's going to save people loads and loads of time. So it's still in preview, still a few things to work out. But if we were just, as we were just talking about scope, it works with scope as well. So in here, I've got 4 different actions. Now I don't want to have to create each one of those actions individually, so I can just copy the scope. So copy to clipboard, and I can put this in a parallel branch. I can add a new action, put it in my clipboard, choose the scope. So you do get a list of actions that are on your clipboard at the moment. Paste it in there, and away we go. We have scope in there too, or scope 2 in there, so we can get all these actions without the need to have to recreate all these things over and over again, which is going to save you loads and loads of time in future. So that is why copy and paste is my hidden gem number 3. Moving on to number 4, configure run after. Now this is great. If anyone has worked with any sort of like logic modules in the past, so things like dynamics workflows or anything else, you'll know that a typical way things end is with errors, and then you can't continue. Now, what we have in Power Automate is the ability to configure the run after of a step. So if we think that something may fail, we can still have the rest of the actions continue, because we're not because like certain actions may be creating records or doing other things. You may end up with incomplete work if it just stops for an error, or you may want to add this in as error handling to say if this errors, then send this message, else carry on. So in here we have a couple of steps. So there's a couple of things to be aware of with configure run after. Configure run after can't be set on the first action in a flow after it's triggered. So what we have here instead is we have two compose actions. So we have a compose action which is taking the trigger from this manual trigger using that text input that we spoke about in hidden gem number 1. Then we're going to put that into the input here, and on this jet forecast for today, if we click on the 3 dots, we have this configure run after. So this configure run after can run if it's successful, if it's failed, if it's skipped, or if it's timed out. So if we put something in there that causes this to fail, the usual scenario is that the flow doesn't continue. So usually just this one is ticked. But if we put this in here, this means that even if this doesn't succeed, the next step is still going to run. So let's test it. So it's test. I'll perform the trigger action, save and test. Now I made my text input box be not required, so I can just run this flow, which is one of those things we looked at the start. Click run flow, click done. And we see that the flow ran successfully, but we can see that this step fails, yet the flow continues. And that's how great configure run after is. So if you think you're going to be running into error messages, or you need things to carry on and continue, even if something has failed, that's what that does. And that is brilliant, because not a lot of programs that use logic and things like that allow you to do that. So that's all good. So that is why configure run after is my hidden gem number 4. On to the 5th and final gem, and I'm hoping someone will jump in if I start to run over time. So date diff. Date diff is isn't a function that you have in Power Automate. So this is a bit of a hack, or a bit of a know what you know. So there is no function for date diff. What Power Automate has instead is a function called ticks. Now a tick is 100 nanosecond interval from the 1st of January 1601 at midnight UTC. That's a very specific thing. And I know what you're thinking, how is that useful? Well, what it allows you to do is it allows you to have a fixed point in time to reference things against. So if you know how many ticks pass between 2 dates, then you can work out how much time has passed between those 2 things. So there is a formula that you can use in here that allows you to do that. So this is the formula. So I'll explain this as simply as I can. So this is a ticks of UTC now, which generates the exact time for right now and the exact number of 100 nanoseconds between that 1601 date and right now, this UTC. This is inside a subtract folder. So what I'm doing is I'm going to subtract the number of ticks from now. I'm going to subtract the dates that we're passing in from the manual trigger from the number of ticks now. We're going to take those away, and that's going to give us the difference. And then we're going to divide that by 864 billion, which is the number of 100 nanosecond intervals in a day. Maths. So, so what that does is that allows you to find out how many things are in the day. Is that a question for 5 minutes or
2 minutes? 2 minute
class?
warning. 2 minute warning.
No worries, I'm good. So what we can do is we can test this out quickly, and we can put in say Sunday. So we put in Sunday. It's going to run through. It's going to see what the difference is between UTC now and Sunday, divide it by 864 million, and it's going to give me the answer 3. So Sunday was 3 days in the past. Now, you can also do this with years as well. It's a slightly different formula. It's a little bit more long-winded. There's the ability to do that. I'll have this on my blog. Very quickly, my secret 6th hidden gem is actually the new expression window and new direct content window that you've seen here. If you have not had access to this yet, it's brilliant. You should take a look. And the way to access that is go up to the cog, go to view all Power Automate settings, turn on experimental features, and then you'll have access to this new experimental dynamic content expression window. And with that, that is 6 hidden gems. Thank you very much. Here is all my details. If you want to email me, follow me on Twitter, got my YouTube and I've got my blog. A lot of these things I've already covered in YouTube and on my blog, so feel free to check that out. And thank you.
Oh, that was awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Am I good?
Yeah, well done. Nicely timed. And if you don't already follow Matt on Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere else, then please do, because he posts out some awesome content. So now it is time to hand over to, for those of you who don't know Matt Beard, he's from Data 8, and what they do with data is pretty spectacular, actually, if you haven't seen it. So do go and check them out, and I will now hand over to Matt.
Right, thank you very much. I've cleared my throat to start. So hopefully that is sharing. Can you see screens? Can someone else that can talk see it? Because I can still see Alison.
Can see it.
You see it? Yep. Wonderful. Okay, couple of slides and then I'll move on to actual real demo stuff. This is a session. I'm old school. I'm Dynamics. I'm Dynamics CRM 2011. So I'm sorry to all the Power Apps Flow, Power Automate people that joined the Power platform from that side. I came from Power, some Dynamics CRM. So I remember all that stuff fondly. This is a nice little lesson and a little freebie that we've been built to keep up with the sort of modern day of where the Power Platform's at, but keep some of the old stuff that already exists. So about me quickly, Alison sort of started it better than I would. So that's me. I lead up the development team within Data 8. That's me on Twitter. I've done a bunch of stuff. So there's me pointing out Power Automate errors, and I say Microsoft Flow on my slide deck. So yeah, so I'm a full stack developer. Me and the team have got 6 published apps on the app source at this point. We have an official Power Automate connector out in the wide world. And I have an XRM Toolbox app for the devs out there as well, all to do with sort of data and management and that sort of stuff. But enough about me. I've been in this community for a long time. I've not spoken in the community for a long time. This is a relatively new thing. But I've certainly been attending for a good 5, 6, 7 years. And I've learned so much from so many people within this community that we were in a fortunate position within the business to devote some time to give it back. So whilst it looks like I'm representing the business at this point, this is a free tool that we've given out to people to help them out, because I know there's been stumbling blocks for people. So that's what the intention of this is. So this is a nice little way to say thank you to people that need it, and hopefully if one person uses it and it saves them time, then that's why we did it. For the benefit of the people on the call that don't know what a dialogue is, because dialogues are quite old. A dialogue is sort of a process automation within what was Dynamics, and now within the Power Platform. So you can see here, there's a nice simple case of this is a prompt. You get some questions. You can do yes or no. You can then do next. And it's a bit like Flow, I think, maybe, and the fact that you've sort of got this process-driven way of doing it, but it's integrated in so you can interact with it without leaving your Dynamics instance. And obviously, and Flow is the new modern way of doing this, but what we will learn shortly is that some people got to a situation where they just can't move from dialogues because they have hundreds with little to no resource to move them. So this is for those people. So that's what a dialogue is. So they were introduced within Dynamics 2011. And to be honest, from the point they were introduced, they didn't really change. They do all sorts of stuff, and they can be extended with code. So that meant they satisfied everybody's sort of criteria on what they wanted it to do. And it was, people liked it because it was an interface that they were used to. People have been working with workflows and sort of CRM 4 and earlier versions. So when this came out, it was just sort of second nature to extend that same understanding and keep using it. And they were certainly popular, and I'm sure most people that use Dynamics at some point have seen or have at least played with the dialogue stuff, if you were in the industry when that's what it was about. The bad news was that they deprecated it in mid-2017. Now, that's a long time ago, and Microsoft's stance on deprecation is it's deprecated. It's going to go at some point. Don't use it moving forward. And if they're going to remove stuff, they give you dates, but generally deprecated for now is a case of stop using it. But people don't listen. People still do use it, and I understand why. It can be effort to replace it. The problem they have is when they've now introduced unified interface, what they decided to do was not bring any deprecated features across, just kill them. So with the enforced unified interface change that's coming up, if people have dialogues, they're going to lose them, which means they might lose automation and process within their business, or they're going to try to go to Microsoft and say, we're not ready yet. I've seen people that have got 500 plus dialogues still active in their system. So they're going to say, I really, really can't do this. Can you delay me as much as I possibly can? And the general stigma seems to be now that Microsoft are going to stop doing that. You're going to have to start pushing back. So there is alternatives, but they can be expensive, intensive, or overkill. So Microsoft official approach is Canvas apps, and it's an absolutely fabulous approach. But it can be complex. Nick Dolman, if you've ever had the pleasure of listening to him talk, he gives this presentation online and around the world, and he turns a dialogue into a Canvas app and how you can integrate it within your dynamic stuff. The problem you've got with the Canvas app is the clues in the name, that you are given the blank canvas, so you need to wire everything up, every next button, every back button, every error check, everything needs wiring up. So this is where they get a bit more sort of longer to build. So what happened was, interestingly, you can still have them in your new instances, which means they must be stored somewhere. And actually, when you dig into it, all they are is metadata that's stored in the CDS and the metadata behind the scenes. So what if you can use that to your advantage? And that is something that me, Mark, and the team thought about for a little while, and we came up with a solution. I think it works. So I'll give a demo of it, which sort of makes more sense, and we'll go from there. So let me jump out of slides and let me share a screen instead. Let's work out how I share slides. Down there. Bear with me if I do this wrong. Anything you share will replace it. I want to share, I think that one. Nope, wrong one. Two screens of the same name. Share that one. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. If somebody can't see that, feel free to unmute your mic and come and shout at me. What we can see here, you can see this, yeah? Cool. This is an old school tier, and this is my on-premise dev environment. It was the easiest one I had access to. So this is people that have only seen unified interface. This is what the old people used to see. And yeah, this is what it is. And what this system has is a dialogue in place, just so I can show you what a dialogue is. I've got a simple use case dialogue in this system, which is I want to change the name of a company, but I want to store the previous name, and I also want to note who changed that name. It's a relatively small use case, but it's one example of things I've seen. I've seen other cases where people will do things like assigning credit limits and checking permissions and that level of stuff. So I'm going to go into a company, and this is where we're at the behest of the demo god, so fingers crossed. They worked for you, Matt, so hopefully they're kind to me. So what you can see in your ribbon up here and your ellipsis, you've got start dialogue. So you just press that little button, which lists all your dialogues, and you go, yep, that's the dialogue I want to run. It feels very weird training people on 2011 technology, so I'll get used to it at some point. So you want to put the name you want to change it to. So this is the new company name, the new name. And then my next step, now if this dialogue says, are you sure you want to change the name from 110 Telecoms to the new name? Yes or no? So again, in a Power Automate world, you can see the same sort of logic. And this is, I guess, where lots of inspiration for the flow for Power Automate came from. So yes, I want to make that change. I hit next on that. And then hopefully end of a dialogue, you have to finish to close it. If I then go out of this page because it doesn't refresh, if I change my view, what you can see in a view here I've got is that the one I just did there you go, 110 Telecoms, the new name, completed by me. So that was the dialogue doing its stuff in the natural environment. And I want to just take this out of my system, put it into my unified interface. So I don't have to build it as a Canvas app. I don't have to rebuild it as a flow because I quite frankly don't have time. Resources can be limited, and that's what people want to do. So I solutioned this all up and I put it in. And I've got a demo here. This is, need to unpin that so that hides. I'm actually in a brand new org that I made, which, can I I would like that to hide at some point. Let me move that so I can do that. Okay, so this is I actually made it for the CMUG Barcelona event that was due to be on. So this is a brand new demo that was made about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I figured I'd use it for this. And what I've done is in the new Maker experience, I've imported that solution. So this is the solution. But what you can see that's interesting is that you go into the solution that's in there, and hopefully if it loads, you can actually see, there you go, that's the dialog. So if I click on that, and it now takes me to the old interface and shows that the tech is still there behind the scenes, even when they move to. So this is never seen the old interface, but the tech is still there to make these edits. If this page load, what this page would show you is just the normal workflow editor. So I won't wait for that to load. But when I go to here and I go to my ellipsis, I don't have a start dialog. So this is one of the problems. I can't use that in any way because it's just gone. It doesn't exist. There is no user interface whatsoever to be able to do that. So this is where our sort of stuff came in. So I just want to go through the process of how I do that because it's actually fairly simple. And if people are interested in testing this out and taking their stuff across, it's a free test to do. So it's nice and easy. We have a website. Just give some stuff. Earlier, before when we prepped for this call, I made a joke saying that I'm a developer, not a designer, and this website will be testament to that, no doubt. And on the install guide, you've got a single solution. So this is when my internet fails. Come on. Okay, so some steps, nice and easy. Go to the Power Up portal, do this, and there's a solution here, so I can download it now. I did pre-download that just in case it was slow. I really want to move that window. Anyone tips on how to move that? I have to keep moving that. So I'm going to go to my solutions, and I'm going to install that solution that I would have just downloaded had I not previously done it. And what you can see in my downloads is this one, Unified Interface Dialogues 1.0. It's just a nice, simple, and this solution doesn't contain anything major. All it contains is a bit of JavaScript and some stuff that we can use later on, but it's a bit of a prereq that we need, but nothing major. So this is where we have to have an awkward silence and fill while this green bar fills. Thankfully, it's going quite quickly.
Matt,
yeah.
Just to interrupt, I think you shared your Chrome window, so all your pop-ups we're not actually seeing, so we can't see how quickly it's importing or the dialogue.
Wonderful. It's fine. Let's do
Sorry.
it easily. No. That's fine. Let's do the whole screen. That's just as easy. It means
There we go.
Okay, wonderful. So that had imported, and it's just sort of waiting to do its own thing at the end. This is why live demos never work well. So whilst that's importing, and that will say it's completed, the next step you do is go down here, and you have to put a URL in. So I'm going to put the URL of my CRM in. What I'm going to do is this has a look at your metadata, has a look at what dialogues are in there, because all this is going to do is make a custom. This will make a custom solution for you that adds the button on. So all I did there was you saw me click onto it, that authorized through the website, so through the OAuth, through the secure patterns that Microsoft recommend, and I'm now reading directly from the CDS at this point. And I always find this interesting. This is a brand new system. There is still dialogues from other entities in there, even though you can't use them. So order line and quote line still exist in the out-of-the-box system right now, but you'll never be able to see them. In this case, I don't want them, but it's picked up the account when I imported. So I hit generate, and that's just going to download me a solution. All that is going to do is add a button on. If you use Scott Giroux's Ribbon Workbench, you can do that by yourself. But we just try and make it easier because nobody likes hacking form XML other than probably Scott. So now I've done that, I just want to import that solution. So I'm going to hit next on that. Okay, speed up. Nice.
2 minutes.
Nice. Okay, that's fine. I'm on schedule. So once that's imported in, in fact, I'm on schedule as long as publish all doesn't take 2 hours to do. So let's see how that goes. So what will happen is, in fact, I'll move on to somewhere else. So once that finishes, you would do publish all, which will publish the ribbon change. In one I made earlier fashion, I've got another org that this is pre-set up on, so I can save myself 30 seconds. So you can see now this is the same instance. This does exactly the same thing. I've just got accounts. But what I've got up here now is an ellipsis. I've got start dialogue. So start dialogue. First time you do this, you have to log in because what this is actually doing is running on a website hosted by us. So this basically is as similar to the workflow engine as it can be. So you can see this looks the same, is a bit more modern, but it's going to do the same thing. So change company name, start on that. What would you like to change it to? Unified Interface Dialogue Next, so you can see the steps are exactly the same. Would you like to change the account name from that to that? Yes, I would. And then you're going to now get, this is your dialogue completed, hopefully. There you go. So I can close that, and actually, there you go. Page even refreshed quicker, so slight improvement on the old stuff. And if I go back to it and I go to the drop down, you can now see that that same dialogue ran. There you go, on a unified interface without me leaving it, without any changes to the dialogue whatsoever. And yeah, that's basically it. It's a whistle stop. I sped over that very quickly because I'm too scared of getting Alison's horn blasted down my ear again. And yeah, that's it. And that's my details if anybody wants them.
You're not the first person to say that, Matt.
There you go. And there you go. 35 seconds ahead of schedule because I probably sped through and missed loads of points. That's me done.
That was wonderful, Matt. That was very, very interesting. And again, as with Matt Collins-Jones, if you're not already following Matt Beard, you should be. The stuff that they do at Data8 with data is pretty revolutionary, to be honest. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, which is the lovely Sancho Harker, who is going to show us how to save 1 million man-hours per week by using templates for apps. I've seen this presentation before. If you haven't seen it before, get ready to be mind blown because it's pretty tremendous. So I'll hand over to Sancho.
All right, no pressure there.
No pressure. Nothing to live up to there. It's fine.
No. Okay. Right. So this is me. I'm going to skim right through this. I'm super user on the Power Apps community forums. I'm one of the Power Apps champs. Print screen this if you want to look me up later or look me up on Twitter. So what is the issue? The issue we're facing right now is when you build a Canvas app, if you aren't specifically building it for people with low vision or color blindness, it just won't be accessible to them. And the other issue is, everyone knows this, when you're building a Canvas app, it takes forever to change all the controls on every all the properties on every control to match your company branding or your colors or maybe any kind of specifics you're setting within the app. So if there's 2.5 million Power Apps developers out there at least, and if we're all spending at least 1 hour in our career, then that equals about 285 years of work hours we're spending just by each spending 1 hour. But realistically, I'm spending about an hour a week doing this. So if we scale that out, that's then 13,680 years of collective time that we're spending in work hours just changing properties on controls. And that's madness. So there had to be a better way to do it. And there is. So let me, so I built this branding template. And the idea was I want to take away all of the issues that I just mentioned there. So if I just open up the template. So now the idea is I wanted it to be as simple as possible, that you just don't have to do everything. It just works. So if I put in a new screen and start inserting a bunch of controls, let's just drop down and a date picker and a pen. Cool. So now normally what we do is we go through and we change the color, the fill, the border colors, pressed color, pressed fill, all of those bits down here. And then set it to our company branding, and then maybe make a copy paste screen so that we can, reference it later or make new controls by copy pasting. But what it should be is it should be as easy as flick into a different theme, like your accessibility theme here, hit set theme, go back to that screen, boom, and we're done. And that's how easy it should be. And that was with just default insert controls. And another thing that you might notice here is I put a date picker in there. Why? Because the date picker is the one thing people can't really change in the Power Apps editor right now. You can change the face of it, but as soon as you hit this button, you're going to see that standard blue, except not in mine. So another thing is the pen input. Pen input always stays the same color, so I've got it set up that depending on whether you've got a dark or light theme, it's going to use a different color. So right now we're in a dark theme, so the pen automatically defaults to white. But if I flick back to a light theme, and start drawing, there we go, done. No input needed. It just works. So other thing was people like to change the chart colors. It's a bit of a hassle right now. You can do it with an array of colors, but I wanted to simplify that as well. So got a bunch of boxes here. It should be as easy as I just want to choose. I want the first color to be purple. Excellent. Hit set chart colors. Boom. All your charts, the first colors are purple, and that then also applies to inserting new charts. So I put one in here. Boom. It's done. So how did I do that? Now, the .msapp file itself, when you go and say file, save as, local copy, you download a .msapp file. Now, that actually is a zip file. So if I go back into my downloads folder here, so there's two flavors that a blank app will come in. One is when you use the theme editor that the Power Apps team put out there as a sort of unofficial tool. The theme editor looks like this, and you can set a bunch of colors, and you can set the properties of different things, and you know it's a lot of work because you got a ridiculous amount of properties and every single control within and property within each control. So you generate a file with that, and what it gives you is this .msapp file, which has no subfolders and is a flat structure. If you create a blank Power App from the actual editor, and let's open that with 7-zip. So you notice I'm opening these up with 7-zip. A .msapp file is a zip. You can rename it as a zip, open it as a zip. It's just a container for these items. So let's put these two here. Right, so your blank app on the left here from the theme editor, got no structure. The app you create from the portal got a bunch of different subfolders, but there's some similar file names here, properties, header. So that made me think, okay, if they can use an app to create a .msapp file that can be read and have its properties and colors changed, then I should be able to do that as well. And I can. So what happens is in the files, there's this one file called themes.json. That's JavaScript object notation. And if we open that up, it's a bit crazy at first. If you use Visual Studio Code and get the extension called Beautify, you just hit Beautify file, and there we go, it's done for you. So what happens is when you've got a default theme, so the theme that is loaded when you load the app, that's where this comes in. This is the default theme, and it's laying out the screen background colors, primary colors. You got somewhere down here. This is the reserved chart color set. That's the array of colors that defines the charts. We've got font weights, all sorts of different properties. So the concept I wanted to do was, can I have it read a bit of text? So I was thinking I'm going to set one of these colors to T, like that, and make it a text value of whatever, and then within the app go, if something .text is this value, then set it to red. But what actually happened was when I imported it as T, the editor actually interpreted that as a variable. So if I go back to my app now and go back to that screen, so these default items that I've created, all I've done is set a T value, which I thought was text, and it's interpreted as a variable. And then all I do is on the app on start, which by the way has loads of comments, so you can have a look at it when it's on the Power Apps community app samples. So all I'm doing is I'm setting those colors when the app starts, and that way all you really have to do, I've got 3 colors, a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary color, and then a text color for each of those to contrast that color specifically. So all you have to do then is you can just create things based on those 3 primary colors. Now there's a lot more you can actually do within the blank Power App. One of the other ones I created here was a theme tester. So instead of you fiddling with all the code in the on start, if you want to test out what a theme looks like, you just change these 3 boxes. So, you know, I want to see red with white, and maybe let's make that an orange, and that one a yellow, And the contrast looks all right on that. I could probably change that text one to white. No, it's actually better as black. And then all I do is hit set theme. Voila. So straight away we can see this is horrible. Don't use these colors. And if you want to go back to your standard themes, just go back to your theme palette here and hit set theme, and it will revert again. So you can just keep testing to find a color combination that will work for you. So let's go back to the .msapp file. What we can do as well, and this is very new, is you can actually change a lot more properties in a blank Power App. So if I go and extract that blank Power App to a folder and then open up the properties file, we can see here it's got an author field that we can change. And we can change the actual app name, so let's call that cat app. And then it's got all sorts of things you don't want to touch, like ID and file ID, but it's got things like you can set which preview flags you want enabled, the width and height, the orientation, and then there's one here I want you to focus on, and that's last control unique ID, and it says 3. So I'm gonna save that. So now we should have an app when we load it that says Sancho is awesome and the name is cat app. Now if we go into the resources folder, there's publish info, and that is the second place where they call the app name. Now one of the things, if you go back into here, one of the things people really want to do, but they can't, is change the background color of an app. So you've got this list of, what is it, 20 colors here, but you can't really set your own, but you actually can. In the publish info, the background color can be set to any RGBA or color value. So let's make that bright green just because it'll stick out, and save that. So now you might think, okay, I've extracted this Power App into a folder with lots of subfolders. How do I rebuild that? So what I've actually made here, let's get that in here. So it turns out you can actually use PowerShell and reconstruct that subfolder and folders into a .msapp file again. So you could, for example, take your existing Power Apps that are online, save them down locally, edit all the files after you've extracted it, build it up into a .msapp file, and then open it from the editor again. So it's not doing a whole bunch. It compresses the file with a destination path of the same path, and then it's doing a dash update, and then just renames it from a .zip to a .msapp. The problem is if you do this with actual WinZip and it tries to compress it, or 7-zip, and you try import it, it can't read the file. So I've uploaded this to the to my GitHub, and it's on the gallery sample app that I published as well. So if I run that now, let's call that cat app. It goes through, builds me a nice .msapp file. Now I browse and open that. Okay, so it looks like it's normal, except if we look at the properties, our icon is now this amazing bright green. It's called cat app, and somewhere in the metadata here, it's actually got me as the author. So that's 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay. Something really cool then. Okay, so what you can do actually is you can actually now programmatically add screens or controls to an actual MS app this way. So what I'm going to do is go back to here, open up a screen. So this is the control ripped from another screen. If I now take that and save it as in controls, let's call that 4, and then rebuild using that. And let's open that. Boom, we've just inserted a screen there programmatically. And you can do the same with a button. So let's just zoom right through that. So the button will be inserted inside that control in the children. So it's a children object to this parent object that is the screen. So if I save that and reconstitute that file. Let's open that up. Oh. Okay, I made a mistake there. There's an error in it, but there is a way to do it. I'm just testing it tonight. You can. Yeah, so there is a way to programmatically not only do the themes, but do the content itself. So from a ALM side, if you want to actually build things in like DevOps, you can do that programmatically. So that is crazy, and it's just a small PowerShell script to rebuild the file once you've extracted it out. It's a really simple one. You could run it in Azure as a like 2-liner. So here's 3 links. So Wcag contrast checker, when you're building apps, you want them to be the right contrast levels between foreground and background and text and background. Use that to check it. Colorblindness simulator, you can take a print screen of your app and just paste it into this simulator, and it'll show you what it looks like with different levels of color blindness. So you can see how many people you're excluding from your app. So always build your app with accessibility in mind. And then there's a link to my template, which will take you to the community app samples gallery. Whew.
Wow, that was fast and furious at the end there. Thanks, thanks, Sancho. I'm fairly sure most people watching, if they haven't seen that before, were just having their minds blown by some of the stuff you're doing there. And I particularly enjoyed the milk tray theme of your of your whole presentation. That really made it for me. So thanks, Sancho. That's absolutely awesome. Before we go on to the Q&A stuff, I just want to do a quick roundup of events that are upcoming. We have the Power Platform online conference on the 20th of March.
John's busy. Yeah, you got to make a noise to be visible, man.
Yeah. Yes. Go sign up for the Power Platform online conference. Get on my Twitter. If you haven't already, I'm disappointed in you. I would expect everyone watching this to already be signed up. But don't worry, you can redeem yourself. Go sign up today.
Yep, there's still time. It starts Monday lunchtime for us, I think. So
Friday. It's
sorry, Friday. Sorry, Friday. This Friday lunchtime. Yeah. So you can squeeze all of your actual work into the morning. And then join at lunchtime and enjoy the rest of the Friday evening and probably crack open a beer and listen to John. So yeah, and many others. So then on the 25th, which is Wednesday, is it? The Edinburgh D365 UG. Then on the 1st of April, the Teams Fest, which would be very exciting. 2nd of April, we've got the D365 UG Bristol with Lee and Lucy. We've got East Midlands Power Platform UG also on the 2nd of April. I'm not sure who's doing that. Is that Megan? Does anybody know? No.
Nope.
No. Okay. Good. 22nd of April is the next Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour with Jon Levesque. So we'll probably just have him do an hour. That's fine. That'll be good. Then 23rd of April is Northwest UG. 23rd of April also is the London PP Power Platform UG. 27th of April is the D365 UG London Reading. I believe that's now an online event. I'm assuming that some of the others will also be online. 12th of May, Black Country Power Platform UG. So some like there's probably something coming up near you. hopefully. We had a lot of questions, so we've got like 6 minutes left to whiz through. Is there any questions that haven't been answered? Anybody want to wade in on any of them? Is Nigel still alive? He's got a vicious beating in the... Sorry, Nigel, we had a bit of a vicious beating in the comments there. And happy St. Patrick's Day to Carsten. I'll celebrate with you by raising a non-alcoholic tin.
I want to do a shout out to Matt. Matt did it. That was amazing. Those tips. He literally did my whole Udemy course almost that I charge people money for. So that was good. That was a lot of value.
I'll give you some money as an apology.
That's where he stole it from. He actually told us. He said, like, basically, I'm just going to take all the content from Jon Levesque Udemy and condense it into 15 minutes.
It was great. He killed it.
He nailed it. Totally. Yeah. Anybody got any other questions that we haven't covered? Anybody want to shout about anything?
Yeah. Can I just say give a shout out to Carsten? Yeah, I know you're on the call, dude. Thank you very much for pitching in, as well as Lee and Kayla for pitching in on the comments. There's a very clear thing going on here, a very clear theme, and I think it's something we need to approach in the next couple of virtual happy hours. One of them being, where should you put your data? Because there's been comments made around CDS killing Power Platform, which is very untrue. Also, choosing the right data source for the data, for your data, which is really key. I mean, we need to approach that. We need to talk about it. Often cheap isn't the right way out. There's also a couple of misconceptions about the comment about Power Platform being only for customer engagement, which isn't correct. It covers every single sort of solution area. And if we don't have the connector, you can build it. So just from my perspective, what we'll do is we'll consolidate all the responses. We'll start reaching out to people to present these types of things. But I just want to say thank you very much for everyone for leaving comments. If this was face-to-face, we'd probably be having a data fight right now, which is really awesome. But this is an open forum. You've got to remember that. And we're here to learn from each other. So even as sarcastic as I may be, I think this is a really good place for us to pick up tips and tricks and, grow as individuals as well as with the platform. So thank you to everyone that asked questions.
So there's a good question there. Coming from a Dynamics 365 background, we've always been told to stay away from manually editing files inside packages. Is modifying these JSON files to bend the Canvas apps supported? I'm not sure the same support concept applies to Power Apps. I feel like this is a great question. From my perspective, I feel like normal everyday business users, we probably should not encourage them to try and modify JSON. But I think that there is a certain level to me where then, and that's different for every company. But I would say as average business users, I would not recommend trying to have them do what Sancho just did.
Well, that's kind of why I built it as well. I want to give everyone else, save them all that effort. In terms of how breakable it is, because I get this question a lot, because the team actually built a lot of the things around the default labels and buttons, unless they want to break everything, they can't really change major things in that, because all of the insert screens, for example, reuse that default label in all sorts of different sizes and variations. So it's, hopefully we see it in the product soon.
Ooh, acquisition.
Controversial. So
I figured out what I broke, by the way. I didn't change the parent that button was pointing to. It works now.
You've been judged for it.
Yeah, judged harshly.
You've been judged and found wanting, and you're getting the thumbs down right now. So also, I just wanted to chat. We've got a couple of comments, I think, from Ryan, which I'm assuming is Ryan McLean. Hi, Ryan. Nice to have you with us. Who's got some 26.2% beer, which sounds both intriguing and hugely irresponsible all at the same time.
I respect that. What's wrong with you?
Well, that's some skills if you can drink that stuff. He said the Edinburgh UG is going to be virtual, and he's going to send a link out for everybody. So that's awesome.
Same thing for the Northwest UG. It's trying to be virtual as well, so anyone can attend.
If you guys tag me in that, I will help retweet that and share that out.
Awesomeness.
Thanks.
And there is, if you're on there's a mailing list, which I thought someone was going to pop a link to in the Q&A. So if you sign up to the mailing list, then you will get a recording of the session after it's finished, or a link to the recording of the session after it's finished, and you'll get a reminder and a diary invite for the next session, so it goes into your diary and you don't forget about it. So do please put your name down on the mailing list. It's not used for anything else except Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour, so its sole purpose in life. Anybody got anything else to say before we call it quits?
I just want to say thank you to all of you and all of the guest presenters. You guys have been amazing. I really appreciate it. And to Addison, Cole, and Lee for sticking this together. You guys are awesome. And John, you're amazing. Thank you for coming along and helping us out. You're a legend as always.
My pleasure.
Share the love, folks. We've got to get this going, and we've got to get more people on board. So the more the merrier.
Yeah, so without too much ceremony, we'll let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're choosing to do. Have another couple of beers. Do feel free to reach out to any of us if you want any information, or if you want to volunteer to be on a future happy hour. We'd be really pleased to have you. Thanks so much to Matt Collins-Jones, Matt Beard, Sancho Harker, for the brilliant content, and thanks very much for Jon Levesque for dropping in, and I hope to see you all again and more next month. Thanks everybody.
Cheers guys.
See you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.